My name is Justin Cooper. I'm your host. I host a little show called Epic Tales from the Sewers. Just want to give a little shout out to Bull Airs, who is an unofficial sponsor today, but I love them and everything that they do. I'm wearing the Bull Airs jacket. So, I want to welcome everybody to our panel today called Turtle Power. Our guests today have all had an impact on sneakers. An impact on the Turtleverse, and each in their own way. They represent Turtle Power. Joining us, we have one of the original Mirage Studio artists, the original colorist, and the creator of Cuddly, who is one of my perfect personal favorites, Cuddly the Cowlick, Stump, Sling, and Sergeant Bananas, the original Michelangelo himself, Mr. Steve Lavigne.
Woo! Easy? Never heard of him. Me either.
Next to him, we have, let's see. He may have ruined your childhood by killing your turtles in The Last Ronin. But then, he brought us 4 new turtles in the Lost Years.
I made up for it.
The original Bish Kid himself, Mr. Ben Bishop.
Turtle killer.
Yeah, you bastard.
Up next, the current reigning champion of the Granite State Sketch-Off. Artist of Swamp Thing. The Story Dodge, about a werebear, which is pretty cool. You should check it out. And many Last Ronin covers. The spirit of Ben Grimm himself, Mr. Mike Rooth. Next up, we have the artist of the TMNT Batman Adventures crossover in the Neverlanders series. Am I saying that right? Okay, with Tom Taylor. It is a fantastic award-winning book. You should check it out. Jon Sommariva. Okay, and we have the king of the crossover, who brought us the Batman TMNT together, Masters of the Universe and Thundercats. I mean, that's a mind-boggler. And most recently, Godzilla and the Power Rangers. What? Mr. Freddie Williams II. How are we doing?
How do you get them into a panel together?
I mean, that's pretty cool. I'm hoping next we get Turtles versus Godzilla. I don't know if there's any interest for that. So
They're both green. It could happen.
it's green, maybe we'll get like the '96 Godzilla. It's a little smaller, a little more manageable.
Maybe Godzilla's origin is actually tied to Daredevil as well.
Right.
You know
The
what?
same mutagen.
This writes itself, Ben.
Yeah.
I like it.
It's almost done.
I just want a scene where Splinter, like, judo flips Godzilla by the end of his tail, and he just rolls him through the city that way.
Are you sure? Because you had a problem when I said that Bane beat Splinter in the Turtles. Turtles 2.
It wasn't a fair
It wasn't a
fight.
fair fight.
That wasn't a fair fight. Splinter
Sorry.
was just saving Raphael from being destroyed by
It's true.
by Bane. So
And I love that. And
Saving
guys,
the boy.
he drew it, so I can give him a low. So we're talking about Turtle Power. We're talking about what it takes to be a Turtles fan, what it is. And, I mean, Turtle Power to me is something that you see in those eyes when we start talking about this geeky stuff like this. Like when I talked to Freddie about like something that he drew or John about like a video game he liked or something like that. And it's that excitement. So maybe it's a memory of you like staying at a sleepover when you're a kid playing the Ninja Turtles video games, or maybe it's the inspiration for you to take martial arts, because I know that's something that was important to me. But anyway, what brings us together as a fandom is that these 4 brothers, their rat father, and their human friends, they're a family or a found family, and all of them together, they come together to overcome any challenge. Even in The Last Ronin, even when, everybody's down, they're not completely out.
Successfully overcoming the challenge.
So I was going to just go down the line here and ask you guys, tell us about your beginning as a fan of TMNT. And I'm sure it's going to be way different for you, Steve, but what got you excited to be a Turtles fan?
Me?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That's
the
a valid
paycheck,
answer.
a job. Yeah, I mean, a fan of the Turtles. For me, going into it was my friend created.
That's awesome.
So I had to love him automatically because he's my buddy. So yeah, I mean, I love the boys. They're like family.
I can imagine.
At this
yeah.
stage in life, and as a matter of fact, my wife always says every time I see the Turtles, I think they're our family. I'm like, our kids are better looking than that, but that's all right.
I'd hope so, right? That's a good answer, and I mean, they are like family to a lot of us, and we talk about like how they pull in Casey and they pull in April and all that. It's your found family, and a lot of Turtles fans probably feel like oh, well, I didn't fit in with the Marvel crowd or the DC crowd or anything. And it's like, yeah, this hit me right where I needed to be. So, I mean, that's a great answer. How about you, Mr. Bishop?
For me, I grew up on the cartoons and toys like everyone else, and the underwear and the cereal and the sleeping bags.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
everything. And what spoke to me about it was the huge array of colorful characters and different, mutants, and then the toys. It just like basically throwing spaghetti at a wall, kind of, and like everything goes. And then gradually, I'm drawing the whole time and being inspired by this and that, and then gradually realizing like there was a comic first, and it's like the most successful self-published indie comic ever still, and that then being inspired by Kevin, Pete, and all these guys to then do that myself with my own characters, my own books, and things like that. So it's just been ongoing, and then that led to meeting these guys and then being inspired by that, and then that led to working with them, and so it's
just in case nobody knows what your own books are. What books would those be?
I've got this book called The Aggregate, which is a post-apocalyptic sci-fi with giant robots and spider cats. And it's also the first split decision book, which is my company, which lets you choose where to go, like an old choose your own adventure, but as a comic book. And then I did a bunch before that, like
Drawing
since I was
Blood.
18.
Yep.
Yeah, I got a book called Drawing Blood with Kevin Eastman. And it's kind of the fictional true story of how the Turtles were created, but instead of Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, it's this guy Shane Bookman and his brother and the radically rearranged Ronin Ragdolls, who are samurai cats named after famous anime directors Tezuka, Otomo, and Miyazaki. So that's a lot of fun. That's going to be coming out through Image in 2024.
Very cool.
Amazing.
Alongside Last Ronin 2, the sequel, which we're working on now. And
Which
we'll talk
you're going to
about
give
all
us.
that later.
Oh,
Yeah.
never mind. Okay. All right,
Everyone's
maybe that's
dead,
a bit much to
but
ask.
we're bringing them back, and I'm going to kill them again. No.
You're so good at that.
Hey, I asked for it, so let's move on to Mr. Rooth here. Why don't you tell us what it was like for your beginning as a TMNT fan? Maybe what got you excited about it?
Yeah, like the first comics that I remember of the Turtles were that we had at recess back when like 1984, 85 was like the Mirage books, and I remember the graphic novels that first came out, the colored first ones. They were pretty cool, and I was just a huge fan. All my buddies were like X-Men guys and Marvel guys, but there was something about the Turtles that just kind of grabbed me. But the big thing I think for me that cemented it was back in the days of dice and paper role-playing games, there was the TMNT and Other Strangeness game book by Palladium Games. And that book not only had a full statistics list of like the different characters from the Turtles book, so we actually got a picture of who was the strongest, who was the smartest, who was, whatever. You could also roll up other mutant animal characters. And so my buddies and I went crazy playing this game, and I rolled up this character. It was a badger, and it was just, we were just cemented in that world. We lived in that world. We played that game every weekend, and I was kind of at the age where I had a younger brother who was about 8 years old. So when Turtle Mania came into Canada at about 1988, 1987 with a cartoon and all that stuff, he was at the perfect age to start consuming it at that level. I was like like 14 or something, like 14 or 15 then, and like here's my kid brother who's right into the Turtles, like nuts for it, and I was like, man, the Turtles are a cartoon now, and it was this cool like cementing. So I was able to kind of like, and then we got the Nintendo game, which is still to this day the most difficult game that's ever been created. Yep. We eventually got the walkthrough and beat it, and we were just like, oh my god, this is amazing. But yeah, the game was super hard, and so yeah, the Turtles has always kind of been around, and then to have had the career that I've had working on comics and working on children's books and everything up until like, a few years ago when I got that first gig doing a cover for a Turtles book, and my whole world changed after that. I mean, people ask you, oh, you make comics, what do you make? And what comics do you draw? And, I'd name some random indie comic that no one's ever heard of. But, after I started getting consistent Turtles work, people would be like, what comics do you work on? And I could just say, well, I've done some stuff for the Turtles. And like everyone knows the Turtles. So it was just a huge turning point in my career, and which was good because I was getting kind of burnt out going, what am I even doing? And then I started working on Turtles and everything kind of rejuvenated again. So yeah, it's just an amazing experience.
Yeah, you're the champ.
Was
Now I'm the champ.
anyone in the audience traumatized by the dams level in the NES game? Anyone? Yeah, the
Oh my
underwater.
God.
Yeah. A couple people I see. It's okay.
Horrible.
It's a good level. Yeah. I don't know. It's just one of those things.
electric
It's
seaweed.
the electric.
Yeah,
seaweed.
the electric
Yeah.
seaweed. Yeah,
It's also a good indie group. Yeah,
the game was tough.
like soft white
Oh, it was.
underbelly.
It was tough. Yeah.
John, how about you? What have Turtles meant to you? What's your intro to the fandom?
All right.
In Australian, please.
I hope you guys can. Yeah, you can hear me, all right? I can hear myself, so that's okay. I'm just losing my voice a bit here. So for me, it was the cartoon show as well. Probably say I'm talking about the '80s cartoon show here. It would have arrived in Australia in the early '90s because we got everything super late back then. It would take years. I don't know. It was sent on ships or something. And once you guys got sick of it, they'd send it down there or something. I don't know. And as a kid that just used to love drawing all the time, I just gravitated towards it. As soon as I saw this TV show, which, by the way, we didn't really get too many TV shows anyway. So Ninja Turtles just stood out to me. And I would just sit there drawing them all day in class, I remember. And even drawing my own little comic books and stories and that sort of thing. And that's basically what I dedicated myself to for about a year. And then I used to get like paid out a little bit at school, I remember. Kids used to make fun of me sometimes for drawing Ninja Turtles. And so I sort of shied away from it a little bit. And then it wasn't until the 2007 movie came out that I just saw how cool they were again, you know? And by this stage, I'd already broken into comics and all that. And so I started drawing the Turtles again, got excited about it. And I guess the right people at IDW saw my work online and asked me if I would like to have a go at drawing some actual sketch covers. And then through some nifty maneuvers, I parlayed that into drawing an actual cover for the series. And that led to me doing being the full cover run artist for the 2012 animated series. So there you go. I've basically always loved the property. It's always been in there, you know, in my heart. So it's just really cool that it's played a big part in my career as well, along with, you know, a lot of other stuff that I've worked on. But it's definitely
You don't sound
had a role.
excited about Turtles at all. That's the problem. You know, it's like, but that's what I'm talking
This
about.
is
It's
me
like
excited.
You can
I'm a
hear how
monotone guy.
excited John is, you know, and I like that. How about you, Freddie?
I had a similar experience where the first time I heard about the Turtles was through the role-playing game.
Yeah.
I have an older cousin who was telling me about this role-playing system called Palladium Books that had compatible source books where you could play Riffs or Heroes Unlimited or Ninjas and Super Spies or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and he said it like it was one long word. And I said, what is that? So he showed me the book, and that was the first time I saw the artwork. That would have been before the cartoons. It was after the original Mirage books had come out. It was when they came out with all the red bandanas, the color reprints in the first comics books. So I started picking those up in the role-playing books, and so they're all integral in my mind. They're all like entwined or whatever. And then from there, of course, the cartoon was really cool and stuff. I had younger cousins who had they actually got the toys of the turtle blimp and the turtle van and stuff, and I asked for and they let me have the boxes that those toys came in, and that artwork was awesome. That was I kept that and would draw from it and stuff. So then flash forward, in 2005 I started working for DC Comics. Then flash forward past that, in 2014 I did a cover for the Ninja Turtles, issue 24 of the regular series, and that put me on the radar with IDW. And then in 2015, when they were putting together the crossover Batman Ninja Turtles, I had really good timing. I got very fortunate, and I got to draw that crossover, which put me firmly into the Ninja Turtle camp. So I loved the Turtles, but for a long time, I didn't even think that I'd ever have a chance to draw them, you know. And I'm honored that I get to draw it. I always think about the original Eastman Laird Mirage artwork whenever I'm drawing mine, the sort of muscle mass and the grittiness for the turtles and stuff. That's the really exciting stuff to me. So I'm always thinking of that whenever I'm drawing the turtles and stuff. So.
It's kind of interesting hearing you guys say this because it seems like maybe there's a little bit of influence on your art styles based on how you initially got into them.
Yeah, and I actually learned how to draw calf muscles from
Massive
those
calf-
big ones,
calf
yes.
muscles,
But from
yeah.
the cover of the first comics book 4, where there's a couple of different really great leg shots of the turtles in those books, and that's how I learned how to draw calves. And so even now when I draw calves for Batman or Wolverine or something like that, I'm still thinking of how Eastman and Laird, probably Eastman in those specific issues because it was the later issues, it drew those big, muscular, almost rock-like calf muscles.
Well, it's funny, Mike, when you were talking about your friends asking you, what are you working on? And the Turtles were finally the thing. Complete opposite for me and Kevin. We used to, when we went back, I remember we went back to visit friends, when we were living together, we went back and our friends were like, what are you guys doing? Oh, working on comic books. They're like, oh, Spider-Man, Superman, what are you guys doing? We're like, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And they were like, good for you. Then a couple years later, the cartoon came out, and we go back, and everyone's Turtles. So it was complete opposite, but they kind of took pity on us. Sure. You're doing what now?
Yeah, the joke's on them.
Right. Yeah. It ended up that way. It wasn't when they were a little flop sweaty at the beginning, but yeah.
There's still a little bit of that though. Turtles. I've talked to Kevin about it. Turtles has always been on the wire of indie and mainstream, like super mainstream, like underwear, cereal, all that. Yeah. But it's indie, and so like even the comic crowd and stuff has never really given Kevin and them or the Turtles their due as an actual comic book. Like I was, not to toot my own horn, but I was like, how many other books have toys in Best Buy, Target, a video game on the way, and have been the top-selling comic for 2
Number
years?
one movie
and I was like,
besides
DC
Barbie.
doesn't care about me. Marvel doesn't know who I am. I was like, they don't picture it like in the comic world for some reason. Turtles is this bigger thing, but also very indie still.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I feel like. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I know Spider-Man had his own pasta, but
Yeah.
I mean,
That's true. Spider-Man is in all those
Did
stores.
Vanilla Ice sing the commercial?
no, Vanilla Ice did not sing the
commercial. There you go.
commercial.
That's the difference.
Yeah. That's street cred right there.
Yeah. I guess.
So go Ninja Go to the next question.
Go.
We're at a pretty cool time where we're right in the middle of a new resurgence of the Turtles, and it's creating new Turtles fans. What do you fellas think is about the Turtles that lends themselves to reemerging every new few years to new fans? Like, what is that perennial nature to them? Like, what do you guys think?
You got one? You should go first.
Whoever's got one. Yeah.
I mean,
Similarity and all.
well, I mean, for me, I always think that the Turtles are unlike a lot of the other superheroes. That they're not human.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of personality based. So nobody sees their actual face in them, but they see who they are, their personality in them. And then there's the family dynamic, that's there, that kind of makes it. You feel like they're a unit, they're a family. They've got April, kind of a surrogate mom,
Big sister,
and jerk brother Casey. But I always like when I was a kid, Super Friends was big.
Yep.
When I had hair, it was blonde.
Okay.
And when I was playing with my friends, we were playing Super Friends. I want to be Batman. Like, no, you got blonde hair, you're Aquaman. You're in my backyard, like, so I'm swimming on the grass. What am I doing here? So yeah, I mean, I think that's part of it. Is I don't think everyone sees their traits in the Turtles, but they don't have to see their faces. It doesn't have to look like them. Yeah. And I think that's kind of a cool thing. It's not. It's just.
So it's a relatability. So it
Right.
doesn't matter what you look like. You could still be a turtle.
Right.
So I've heard some of that about some of our female fans who have been able to relate to this too.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. I've made the mistake at a show one time. A woman came up to the table and said, "I love the Turtles. We used to play Turtles in our neighborhood." I'm like, "You're April." She goes, "Leonardo." I was like, "Okay, sorry."
Or Donatello.
Sorry, go ahead. Oh, okay.
All right, I'll be quick.
Yeah, you should.
You can use this one too.
That one's dead.
I'm sorry.
I killed it.
And I like
So I think everything
It's all
he
about
said is
family.
spot on, but I think there's something also about Turtles going back to the way it's made and the way it looks is like ripe for reinvention because every iteration looks different and is kind of like reinventing itself. And the comics are always that way, like from comic to comic. A different artist, it's a good thing. You're not like, oh, what have they done? Like a Bodhi.
Well, that's what I say. Back
like,
in the old days, Kevin and Pete let everybody play in the toy box, and they got to do whatever they wanted with them.
So it's like a reflection of.
Yeah.
There's all those reflections, like you said, but every creator that brings something to it, it's okay if it's strange or like you can draw Superman in your style, but if you change him too much, people get pissed.
Yeah.
We got all kinds of stuff. Like we had Soul's Winter back in the day with Michael Zulli, right?
Zulli with
we
his
had
giant
Turtle
turtles.
Soup. With
Yeah,
some
there was
craziness.
The McQueenies issues that were kind of cartoony.
Oh yeah, very much. Yeah.
So I mean, for us that was kind of cool, and it gave Kevin and Pete a break to catch up on the work that they were getting behind on. But I think that for all of us, that's kind of the cool thing about them. That
Yeah.
unlike a lot of other properties, they weren't handcuffed to change them or do whatever you wanted to.
Yeah.
And I think it reflects even now the way the property is. You know, I mean, I think there's been many versions of them now. Have to defend every one of them. But you know, I think we all have our favorites. But yeah, it's cool that they let everybody play in the toy box.
I don't know. I think we have a big contingent of Michael Bay fans in this room. Is that true? Oh yeah, there's one. That's good.
I want nostrils on my turtles.
I want them to look like Shrek.
Bulletproof
Hulks, 'cause they look
nostril
like Shrek
turtle.
and Hulk combined. That would be great.
I was joking. So, I think Freddie, you had something you want to say?
I was going to give a specific example. So, specifically, like, I love Mike Mignola. He's the artist and creator of Hellboy, and he has this amazing style that's very stark, like, you know, lots of really big stark shadows and very thin outlines on the characters and stuff. And the reason I bring him up is because, you know, Mike Mignola is incredibly busy, so he doesn't draw a lot of the Hellboy universe sort of books now. And so the artists that they recruit are very talented, but they're essentially doing their best Mignola impression. And there's nothing wrong with that. I love Hellboy. I drew a portfolio piece that was more in my style and submitted it to them because I would love to draw a Hellboy miniseries. And the feedback I got was it looks a little too mainstream. We usually try to get something that looks as close to Mike's work as possible. Yeah. And that's totally cool. I'm not putting it down. But what I think that'll do in the long run is if there's a time that that type of style becomes, you know, incredibly dated, we're talking like 20, 30, 40 years from now, there might be a time where basically that style is out of favor or it starts to be like a pair of handcuffs that character has to wear. And the Turtles don't have that from the very beginning. Yeah. First of all, you know, Kevin and Peter also were they adjusted the Turtles a lot over the course of just those original books. They changed a lot visually. Then they started, when they, you know, branched out into Mirage and they allowed everyone to work in whatever style they really wanted to. I think that was a real gift to allow the characters to just be very adaptable over time. And so it's not like they stayed in this structure for 40 years and then suddenly some PR firm comes in and says, we need to figure out a way to bring this into the 21st century. And I you know, so it's so malleable to any era. And they really do. I mean, the designs are basically perfect, that they can just be slightly altered and suddenly they're awesome and new. The proportions can be just slightly altered and they look fresh all over again.
Yeah, we have 3 books right now that have completely different turtles. If you're reading the Stranger Things crossover, they look completely different than the Street Fighter crossover and the Usagi Yojimbo one. So all 3 books, and I mean, guys, there's like 10 books right now that you can get. Like between it's like The Lost Years, Saturday Morning Adventures, which look completely different. Usagi Yojimbo, the Street Fighter, the Stranger Things crossover. Maybe it's not 10, but still, you know. But I mean, there's at least 10 covers. So
The main line, Armageddon game.
I'm not known for my math. I'm not the Donnie. So, you know.
It was close.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's something that's like, and every one of them has a different style. So that's a good pickup there, Freddie. It's like, yeah, they changed very much from issues 1 through 5. And by the time you got around to like issue 29, they look completely different. Totally. And they're fighting vampires in a mech. So, you know, if you haven't read that story, check it out. So. Question for you. Any fans of The Last Ronin in here? Anybody read the book and all that? You enjoyed it? All right. If by any chance you haven't read it, this is your spoiler warning. If you haven't read it, okay, I just want to say, so it's like we're going to talk a little bit about it. But I just wanted to ask, has anyone here been traumatized by Mr. Ben Bishop and how he mercilessly killed the turtles? Anyone?
Yeah.
Okay, a couple people.
Yeah, Michael, I'm good.
The best part of the book? Okay. In issues 2
I was under orders.
through 4. It was under orders, okay. So you didn't have to get that license plate, though.
That's true.
Okay.
I know you did
Twist
take
the
it a
knife
little
a little
far
bit.
with the license plate.
Right.
Yeah.
It's all right. So, but
I killed turtles.
all kidding aside, it's emotional. It's emotional to see some of your favorite characters get like killed in such a visceral and brutal manner. You know, from issue 2, issue 3, issue 4. I love issue 4. It's my favorite, by the way. So, but it's kind of like a really guttural thing to see that happen to some of your favorite characters. Let's see. When you guys, this is kind of for all of you, when you guys first heard about this, and maybe Steve and Ben, you guys probably already knew, who did you think would be the last Ronin? Did you already think it was going to be who it was, or did you think it was going to be anyone different?
Well, for me, when I heard about it, I talked to Kevin.
You knew, yeah.
And, well, no, and he said, who do you think it is? I said, well, Leo.
Oh, okay.
And he said, no, you should know better. And I was like, Mikey? And he goes, yeah. And that blew my mind a little bit.
Yeah.
But then he told me why.
Yeah.
And once he told me why, it was genius. So what he told me was, so that was the first turtle drawn.
Yeah.
So the first is last.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's genius, man. First is last. So that's why he became the last.
It's like Ricky Bobby. If you're not first, you're last.
You're last, right? If you're not first, you're losing.
I was on the phone with him, and he just got right to the point. And basically, he's like, "Yeah, so I'm going to be doing this book, Last Run with Andy Kuhn. It's Michelangelo." And I was like, "What the hell?" Like, I didn't even have a moment
Yeah.
to
He
speculate.
didn't even let you
yeah, I was
try.
like, "Okay,
You got
well,
to do the reveal page, though. Right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
He forgot. That's all right.
Yeah, I have that one page in issue 1 where nobody dies. That's crazy.
Yeah. No, that is fair. That's fair. We have
hard,
redemption
people.
because we
Yeah.
have
Nobody's
new
dying in
turtles.
this.
It's okay. We've all, I guess I did start that though, so that's fine.
So Freddie and I were actually down in Australia with Kevin at the time when he was working on Last Ronin. He was just starting to thumbnail the actual story out and come up with some of the designs for some of the characters. So it was really cool for us because we were all sitting around sketching, working on our stuff, and Kevin's like telling us, "Oh, this is what's coming up. We've got this thing," and he just straight up told us, no spoiler alert or anything. It was like, "Yeah, so Michelangelo's doing this," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, so Michelangelo's the only one that's left, And that's kind of going to be a big deal, isn't it? Shouldn't you tell us like not to tell this to anyone?"
No non-disclosure
Here's your
agreement
NDA.
before he told you.
I honestly don't even. I was really. I shouldn't have been surprised, but I don't even think they intended that hype of who is the last Ronin as much as it happened.
Oh, it happened.
It was
yeah.
big.
Telling everyone.
Yeah, right.
I think
All you had to do was get him
that
on
just
the
the
phone.
fans kind of did that. They were
Interesting,
speculating
yeah.
and talking about
Because
it.
it was almost like a marketing point to begin with, like who is the last Ronin going to be, and I saw in a lot of the Facebook discussion groups, people trying to figure out who it might be, and I was going, hey, I know, but anyway.
So I should have asked you. Okay, all right, yeah. But it was funny too because like in the fan community there was a lot of speculation on it, and it probably was self-imposed by us because we were looking for it to be this big mystery. But if it was never intended to, there's still people talking today. Oh, he should have strung it out and done this.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that was never the
Find out
intent.
The first issue.
You do.
Yeah.
Well,
Last page.
Yeah, as I'm saying. So I
the
mean,
last
I always
page.
thought when I read
that
the first,
comma.
when I read the first issue, I was like, "There's no surprise then, huh? We're not waiting for the end."
The
You
fan-
know?
the
I knew,
fans-
but I still was surprised when I read it. I'm
Fans
like,
were all debating back and
Yeah.
forth about a comma on that word balloon. I don't know.
Oh,
Right?
come on.
About like
The subtle
is she
innuendos.
calling him Michelangelo or is she saying Michelangelo or
Yeah.
something like that?
Well, if you read the story afterwards, it makes sense. But like seeing it just from the beginning, you're like, oh, okay, it could be a question,
Right.
or is she just putting that
We
on?
knew, so
Yeah,
it
even
wasn't
after
a shit.
people found out, they didn't want to believe it. They kept speculating until issue 2.
Yeah.
And they were like, no.
No, the one I picked is dead now. So.
Yeah. I still don't believe it. Issue 3? Oh, God.
Yeah. Who's dead? Damn it.
So funny.
It's not
No,
Casey.
I was gonna say I had an inkling it was gonna be Michelangelo. I don't really know why, but when I was given the assignment, I started drawing it right away. I was super excited. I can't even tell you guys. It was just so humongous, and word got around that I was doing a cover, and all my friends were going, "Okay, so who is it?" I said, "I don't know." They're like, "Oh, that's BS. You know, they must have told you you're drawing it." I said, "I don't know.
The turtle
I
has all the
legit
weapons."
don't know. He's got all the weapons, black bandana. I don't know." And they were like, "You're full of," like they just wouldn't hear it. So so when I did my cover, before I started coloring it, the guys I was working with wanted to make it. They wanted me to do like a blue and black and white kind of homage to like the I think it was the 4th issue.
Oh, yeah,
Mirage.
Issue
Like
4.
they wanted that kind of look to it. So as I started coloring, I started playing around with those, and I wanted to. I had a feeling it was Michelangelo. I felt like he was the youngest. He had the furthest to grow. He had the most to learn. It was expected that it was going to be Raphael. It was expected that it was going to be dark, maybe Leo, like having failed his brothers. There were so many ways. Donnie seemed the least likely, but at the same time, that would have been like, if they had gone with Donnie, that would have been why, like it was like he was the least likely to take that role. But I feel like Michelangelo was a perfect fit. And so on my cover, everything's blue. blue and black and white, except I made the goggles orange because I was like, that's just for me. And I'm going to
Nice.
see if anyone notices. And then, sure enough, I get the issue, and I'm like, I was right. So,
So you guys never would have known that unless you came here today. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah, that was like, it was like hot stove baseball, where everybody's talking about, like, oh, I think this, and no, there's a strong argument for Donatello, hear me out. And that's kind of what it was in like all the chat groups and stuff like that. So
A lot of people thought he was going to come back at the end to Donnie, that there would be like a Donnie cyborg. I read a lot of that
Because he
online.
did
Okay.
in a couple other
Yeah.
versions
And I
of
was
the
just
Turtles,
like,
he became
nah,
a cyborg.
he's dead.
Yeah.
page 1 of issue 2 could have been him sitting there going, Michelangelo? I'm clearly Donatello. I know I'm old and I've changed, but come on, April.
We all look alike.
We all look the same, right?
there's so many stories like this too, where you have that. It's like we just had the annual issue for 2023 come out, and there was a turtle from the future that came, and they're trying to figure out who it is and all that. And
That was awesome.
It's a really cool story if anyone reads it and all that.
Michael Walsh.
Michael Walsh, yeah.
I guess I could read comics.
Well, luckily, I'm not going to tell you the story. So,
It's a really cool story.
It involves a turtle from the future. So it's pretty cool.
I was telling everyone that it was Krang in a robotic turtle
Oh, wow.
suit or whatever.
What a
and,
pot stirrer.
I think that actually could have worked. That would have been cool.
Oh, yeah.
He's like really sorry for how much pestering
But
it is
there's
to
no
the turtles.
Krang in that universe. It's an Utrum.
Yeah, whatever.
True, true.
Well, they could introduce
good.
Krang that way. That's
Tomato,
Krang could come out of it there.
tomato.
Yeah, that's actually the truth. It's really Krang.
There used to be these Marvel what ifs and all that. I'm wondering if there's room at some point to have a story where the last Ronin is a different turtle, and then they tell that
decision
story
comic.
as that.
We do a
split
decision comic
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
Raph never stormed
If you want
out.
it to be Donatello, go this way. If you want it to be
That would be. I'm actually.
or one where
Go to page
How
one.
would the
one where-
story be different? How would it be told differently? Like, would it end differently? Like, if it's Donatello, would he not kill Hiroto? Would he be
kill him.
killed?
Yeah, kill him.
I'm actually surprised that that's not even in the works yet.
Well, I haven't written it yet, so.
Yeah.
IDW? No, it's good. Okay.
What decisions
Just
do it
kidding,
that way?
Tom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's go with it. I don't have time.
Yeah, there's room for stuff like that, and there's a lot of good stuff coming out. Like we've got the.
Baby now.
He's just talking to me. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I was trying not to talk over him. I'm like, this is gold, Jerry. I wanted to kind of do a little interactive thing and ask the crowd here. If I was to ask you guys to raise your hand if I said who's your favorite turtle, whose favorite turtle would be Donatello? That's a good amount of Donatellos. Wow.
You can just stop
That's
there.
impressive. Okay.
I don't see anybody else winning.
Leonardo?
Never wins.
Okay. Hey, all
Okay,
right.
2 hands.
Raphael? Okay, that's a short
Eh.
amount for Raph. Okay. And Michelangelo? All right.
I guess.
I'm going to tell you, I think the Donnies have it in this group.
Yeah.
So
Donnie's have it.
I just wanted to ask. So,
Oh, you're all way too smart for your own good.
okay. Is anyone's favorite the Shredder? Okay. Wow. Okay. No, I knew it'd be you. I knew it. No, it's good. He's a great villain. Like
He's
that's
the pointiest.
cool. He is the pointiest, and he makes the best coleslaw. So
Yes, he does.
I'm just always curious about that because you get a group of Turtles fans together. That's the inevitable question, and a lot of times when I talk to these guys, it's one of the first things that I ask, like, oh, who's your favorite? Because it helps you kind of determine like, how am I going to talk to this person? How's this interaction going to go? Is it going to be an analytical conversation, talking like Donnie, or is it like, I'll be Leo and I'll tell you what to do? I don't know. Or am I going to just have to be like, come on, Steve, like
me.
stuff like that. It's funny because I've heard Kevin say before that in any particular circumstance, it's pretty mixed, where you have your favorite and it's going to be like just about 25% like that. Obviously, we have more Donnie fans here today, so that's just pretty interesting experiment I wanted to try there. Moving on to my next question. I don't want to ask you guys about something that you've done that's your favorite, but because you've probably been asked that like 100 times. What's one thing that you've done in the Turtles verse that you're particularly proud of? And it doesn't have to be your favorite. It could be like, what I thought it was cool? The background that I did in issue 27. Like, that was really cool, and I feel like people should look at that. What do you think?
I'm going down there.
Okay. For me, is working with. So in 2020, right before the pandemic happened, you guys might have heard about that pandemic thing. But so me and John and then Kevin Eastman all did this really big, wide poster. It's like we called it a triptych. It's just like 3 large pieces of paper stuck together. and we each drew all 4 of the Turtles and a Batman on it in our own styles, but it's one large image. And that felt like the sort of the climax of my involvement with Batman Ninja Turtles. Of course, I've done other stuff after that, like commissions and stuff like that, and the omnibus just recently came out that has that large image in it. It shows some of the progress shots that we did together. So to get to, Jon and I have been good friends for a long time, and then Kevin Eastman is a longtime hero of mine and somebody who I've looked up to, and he's a super, super nice guy if you ever have a chance to meet him. So to get to work with, all 3 of us on it, I think that was probably the thing that I could point to as like a really profound, fun moment. Yeah.
That's great.
Go ahead, man.
Yeah. So yeah, that also was a great moment for me too, obviously, because I was there. But for me, I'm gonna say, so in the Batman TMNT Adventures series that we did, there was one scene where we actually got to recreate the whole intro to Batman the Animated Series, and so we broke down that intro, if you remember, with that music and everything. But instead of Batman, it's actually Michelangelo dressed as Batman. He cobbles together his own suit. That was just such a fun scene to do, and it sort of boils down that whole project because it's just a love letter to those 2 properties, and we just got to have so much fun with it. So yeah, that's a standout moment for me.
That's fantastic.
This might be kind of unpopular, but my first time working with the Turtles was for a small Canadian retailer called Big Country Comics, and they were a very tiny company, and they were going to take a wild risk and do a Turtles cover, and they wanted to do TMNT Jennica #1, and they wanted me to do the cover for it. And I didn't know who Jennica was. I hadn't been reading the Turtles consistently enough to really know who she was at the time. So I did my research, and I was like, wow, this character's really cool. Like, cool origin, cool story. And I remember like reaching out to IDW being like, is there something I should draw? Is there something I should specifically go for in this cover? And they were just like, no, just do whatever you want. Like, have fun with it. And I was like, well, it's a small Canadian company. And, I thought, she's the 5th turtle, so what's something interesting that I could do? So the banner image that I have behind my desk here at the show is of Jennica with her claws, and she's down low in the snow, and in the foreground there's this great shaggy bear arm, and the bear arm has the bandanas of the 4 tied to the arm. And so that was cool because I got to just do something fresh and new and kind of imply a story that has nothing to do with that comic book. It was just a variant cover, so I could just kind of do whatever I wanted. And then the really interesting thing that happened was when that comic came out, I got a ton of hate mail from people who were really upset that Jennica even existed. I had one guy call me and be like, I've been a Turtles fan for, my whole life, and this you Mr. Rooth, you've ruined my childhood. I just cannot accept these changes, and I just I'm never going to buy a Turtle comic again, and I haven't bought one for 25 years, but I don't plan on starting one soon. And I kind of responded to the guy, well, look, I'm really sorry you're so upset, and I'm sorry I ruined your childhood, but, to my mind, if you haven't bought a Turtles comic in 25 years, then you don't get a vote.
Right.
Yeah.
And,
All right. Good
that
call.
was it. So I had to defend myself from some of those guys. You wouldn't believe some of the hateful things people would write. And that gave me a touch. That just gave me a glimpse into the kind of passion that the fans of this universe have, for good or evil. It was just like the heat I was getting from that was absolutely wild. And I said, I just got hired to do a variant cover, man. I'm one of like 20 guys who did a variant cover for that book. Like, it's not me, man.
You got to stop taking DMs.
Oh, that was written right
stay
on
out of the artist thing.
So that would be mine. That would be my story.
That's great.
For me, for those who don't know and hadn't read Ronin, after Ronin, there's a series called Lost Years, and there's 4 new turtles that. Same day I was telling Kevin that I was having a daughter, or my wife was, he told me I'd be designing the new turtles, so I was like, holy shit.
That's great.
And then from that point I did 12 designs, and Lost Years is 5 issues that takes place 3 years apart each issue, so I literally had to kind of wrap my brain around how they grow each 3 years leading up to the last issue, which goes right into Ronin 2, and now they're Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But I also got to evolve their sewer layer. The layer is like unlike any layer we've seen, where I was thinking I used to have a pet turtle, as I'm sure a lot of turtle fans had pet turtles. And you think about like how you set up their terrarium with like the half water and plants and things like that. And I was like, why haven't the turtles ever had like a terrarium kind of overgrown? Like if you were raising baby ones, like make it cush, like turn the water on. And so they grew up in this like very lush, like beautiful, overgrown sewer layer, which was also like the other end of the visual look to Last Ronin, for example. So you can see like it's like brighter future, good things are going to happen, and then now we're in Last Ronin 2 and it's getting dark again, and so more to lose. So I had a lot of fun, evolving all of that as well as them.
That's awesome, and I mean they're great characters. It's nice to see what's going to happen with their personality, much like Mike was talking about with Jenica, who really started coming into a personality in that series, where you're like, oh, punk rock guitar, okay, cool. All right, former assassin. All right, we're getting an idea. So one day I'm going to come in this room and be like, okay, who's your favorite turtle? And then I'll say Jenica, and someone's going to raise their hand. So now we'll be able to say Moya or Uno or Odin, right? So that'll be pretty fun. So, and how about you, Steve? What's something that you've done that you're particularly proud of?
Too many.
Okay, that's
I don't know. I mean, I did so many things over the years that it's hard to nail down.
Got to be that one cover we did, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The cover me and Ben did together.
then I'll pivot a little bit, and I'll ask you.
I forgot about that, Ben. Thank you.
I'll pivot then, and I'll ask you a colorist question. So, is there a specific green that the turtle should be, or a specific yellow?
Well, I painted all the graphic novels, so I had to make recipes.
Oh, so you created a turtle green.
So back in the, Doc Martens, they have droppers, so it was a little bit of olive, a little bit of Nile, and a certain amount of water.
Okay.
And,
amazing.
So,
well, that goes back to what Ben was saying.
Keep it together.
Yeah.
You have to keep it consistent all the way through the graphic novel. So I had recipes.
That's awesome. Yeah. Did you wrote them down so anyone could copy after you?
No, they're just in my head.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the only way I keep my job.
It dies with him.
I like it. Make yourself indispensable. So that's
Yeah,
right.
you don't want to give the secrets away.
I actually really love that look, the more traditional, almost painty sort of style, and I kind of hope that as digital coloring develops more and more, and we start moving away more from the glossy, gradient effects and all that sort of stuff.
For me, I get pulled a lot of commission work now. They want traditional color on it, and I love it. It's fun for me. There's something magical when you're working like in physical world as opposed to the digital world where, I need blue. Oh, there's a ballpoint pen. That's a perfect blue for right there. And whatever's on your drawing table is just there for you, So I always feel, I had to learn all the digital crap. Yeah. Fine. But I still love I still only will work in the physical world, black and white, and beyond that, I'll bring it in for color. But there's something about the physical world, finished art.
Your colors pop too. If anyone goes by Steve's booth, you can see the colors just jumping off of these skateboards and all that. It's just really amazing. So, yeah, that's pretty cool stuff. I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank our guests for joining us today, talking about Turtle Power.